Video is working.
Okay. Is that better?
Okay,
Can I come back to the one?
yeah, sure.
The only, one of the biggest concerns I have is that that project is right in the middle of three schools. So the safety issue, the amount of people going in and out of that facility, and there's kids going up and down from Galvin to the Vogue to the high school, there's 100 kids walking on the Hot Street every day at 7:30 and every day at 2:30. Safety is a huge issue with all those cars. There's already enough cars on that street.
My name is Joe Conway. I'm a direct abutter to the project. I live at 18 Wilson Road. If you look in from the Han Street, you see the precision mowing, the old factory building. The stockade fence to the rear of that building, to the, I believe it's the southeast corner. That stockade fence is mine, and I'm a direct abutter to the project. I'm opposed to the size of the project. And the other thing that I have concerns with is if you go out and you stand on the sidewalk in front of 119, the other ranch house. The pig or the other house. In between the driveway, you stand on the side with the driveway apron into the company. The company sits down in a hollow, okay? Behind 119, over the last couple of years, I've been a resident of 18 Wilson Road for 34 years. Okay, and over the years, they cut down all the trees in the back of 119. There's a hollow, just like when you come in off the street, it goes down with the company. The company is in a hollow.
Yeah.
So now behind 119, they filled they moved up, they filled it all in, they leveled it off behind it. But behind where the company is, it's still down here. Up behind that anchor shop, 119, it's up here. Well, where I live on Wilson Road, the table is up here and I'm down here, okay? So not only do I have a problem with the structure, I'm starting to experience on my fence line that borders Stock Ave. If you look over from Stock Avenue, you see a fence through the woods that runs along that side. It runs parallel with Stock. That's my fence. Since they started out there knocking down all the trees and parking all the equipment the way it is now, I got a trough of water. I got a new stream. I got a new stream starting. It's running down under my fence post. From that higher level lot down, and it runs downhill beside my property to my next door neighbor who lives at 16, who has a couple of drainage pipes going in there. He's already been flooded out. So my thing is, with that is, I wanna know how you're gonna address the drainage.
Well, we're not there yet. I mean, my understanding is we're not talking about that, and this is through the chair, but I will tell you.
That's all.
The only thing I will say
Yeah.
about that, okay, the size and the mass of the structure. okay?
Right.
The stormwater runoff, that building is gonna take up a good portion of the.
And there'll be plenty of time to talk about runoff and stormwater management, but I will tell you that redevelopment of that property will address those issues.
Right now, it's starting to become an issue now.
Well, I'm telling you that there will be stormwater infiltrators.
Mr.
There will
Panos,
be a
this is through the
stormwater
chair.
Management.
Through the chair, Mr. Panos.
Yes.
Mr. Conway, I do remember you testified at the last time when this owner tried to previously put something there. I remember that issue, that we are aware of that issue from your previous testimony on the drainage. So we will be addressing that at the appropriate time, but the mass is important. You're right. It is the lack of impervious surface that this project has is gonna be a problem.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add to that, the last proposal that they brought before wasn't you people, but the last plan they came was with a 4-story, 28 unit townhouse condo type building. It was gonna go in there, but it was gonna be moved to my property, okay? But the problem at that time was the massing again in 4-story, so now you go from 4-story. I don't understand how it goes 4 years ago. I know he withdrew his application to fall through, but it went from 4 stories to 6, then from 28 units townhouse to 100 units.
But we gotta keep going, but we told him that that was an inappropriate size development back then.
Right.
And he came back with a state 40B type comprehensive permit. So that's what happened because he didn't want to continue. We didn't look favorably on that one. So let's keep moving.
These people can't get on, just so you know.
I hear they gotta use all the
Well,
paths.
they still can't get on, there's 15 people that can't get on, still can't get on, she's got a sad face.
Okay,
I said, are you all trying manually?
Yeah.
Not
But if
There'll be plenty of time.
there's gonna be other hearings, we're trying to get something, make a little progress tonight. And the other thing while we only have 180 days since we opened the hearing. There's statutory guidelines that we have to meet in terms of timing, so we want to make some progress tonight. So if we can keep,
Can I just say something real quick? So it seems like it's a little bit backwards, because if you decide on the massing now, then you're really stuck in terms of traffic or safety or whatever. So it seems to me that those underlying issues should determine the massing and not the other way around.
Okay.
Can I speak to that, with regard to process, not substance?
go ahead.
And this is through the chair, to address that. Every aspect of this project is being looked at by your traffic advisory committee, TAC, your engineering department, with regard to stormwater management concerns, utility tie-ins. So that's why we put forth a lot of data with regard to our initial application. We have to supplement that application with more data. We are still waiting for our traffic report, for example. Once we submit that, it will be analyzed. Now, if at the end of the process, after we've analyzed with the data and done the peer review, we lead to a discussion that we all agree traffic can't accommodate the project, for example. I'm speaking by way of example.
Yeah.
Then at that point, that's when procedurally you normally go back to the drawing board and address those deficiencies. We're only 2 meetings in. We're not even near that.
So at that point, it could go from a 4-story to a 3-story.
I don't even want to speculate.
No, but I'm
I don't
saying,
even want to.
this isn't carved in stone. There's all these other variables.
Goes to
that could
speculating to
impact the
speculating
size
about
of it.
past. That's what it's like from speculating
But
about.
for
I'm
us,
not speculating about the mass, that's. for
Okay,
free,
let's-
but I don't want to
let's-
have a side conversation.
let's keep going.
Yeah.
How many stories is there?
5. Okay, let's get through the comment though. Who wants, anyone else? I'm moving down this way. Go ahead. Your name and address. please?
Tim McDonald, 6th Fair Circle, 4749 Crescent Street, 87A New Salem Street, 87B New Salem Street, 541 Lowell Street. Just so I can say I'm 5 properties in
Mhm.
to the town of Wakefield, okay? And acquiring all the time. Okay, is there anyone within our representative board that is following what the 40B numbers are for the town at this point?
Yes, we're well aware of them.
Where are we?
We're not at 10%.
We're not at 10%,
No.
so no matter really what any of us say. This can be jammed through regardless, correct?
No,
Not completely.
there are a number of things that can happen and can't get jammed through. It has to go through TAC,
Right, well, as long
lots
as they
of
meet
things.
their engineering and things of that nature.
We have to meet a lot
The
of.
They have-
state can kind of dictate to us.
Right, we are under a comprehensive permit, commonly referred to as 40B, right, our hands, we do not have as much leverage as we normally do. You're right.
Well, I'm bringing that up in front of the people because I want them to understand.
But we've
to a
had
certain
other,
extent, it really doesn't matter.
but that being said, we've had other 40Bs, and when we've gone through this process, many of those projects have been reduced in scale, reduced in number of units, there have been architectural changes, there's been a number of changes to the project. So we, as a board, have had some success, even with people filing under this 40B, altering the projects. So I think it's worthy exercise for us to go through. I think it's important that they hear that neighbors are concerned about it. The last couple of hearings, they've certainly heard it from the board. We've been very vociferous in our concerns about all of this to a person on the board. There isn't one person on the board that was happy about what was filed or thinks it's appropriate. So,
So just because I've been a resident of Wakefield since 1990, and I grew up in this area, I grew up in Stoneham, and. You know, today, I live on the circle, right? And today, if I wanna go to Greenwood at 4 in the afternoon. I'm gonna get there at 7:30, 8 o'clock. You know, where do we, as a
Yeah.
town, say? We've put a lot of units in over the course of the past.
we did file for,
5 to
we
7
did,
years.
the town did file for safe harbor.
There
We were-
has to be.
We were
some
denied by the
absorption
state
for-
and then now that's being appealed. So there is a legal process that's happening outside of this hearing process.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that 40B up is because I want. Everyone to understand that to a certain extent.
They're trapped.
We can only do
and
so
we're-
much.
We're a little bit, the developers come in and they just take advantage of the situation and that's their responsibility, because that's what they do for business, so their job is to try to maximize their potential on every project and every investment they make. I get that, I own real estate, right? But there has to be some,
That's what we're appealing to.
you know,
A balance.
for the people and for comfort, our quality of our life, you know?
Sure.
So
And our-
that's, I just wanted everyone to know.
Our top concern is safety at this point, for sure.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. Does anyone else going down the line here?
Joseph Ritchie, I live in Hartsfield, Elderly. I have over 25 years of construction experience. My concern is with this project and the other 2 projects that are proposed, there's gonna be a lot of heavy equipment going over the Hart Street. Would you agree that with the constant flow of trucks and heavy equipment, that the Hart Street, which is not in that good condition now, could become further damaged? Who would be responsible for repaving, the taxpayers of Wakefield or the contractors that are building these units?
Under 40B, we can't require work outside the scope of the project.
Sorry.
Under the 40B comprehensive permit, we cannot require the contractor or the applicant to do work like that outside the,
So if
outside
the
the limit.
street breaks up,
Towns on the hook.
taxpayers pay for it?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Don't sound very clear to me.
I'd say, I'm just telling you what it is. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's just the fact as it exists. Okay,
So it seems like the contractors, the builders hold all the cards.
they hold a lot of cards in the 40B process for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Concerns, no.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else over here?
Can we ask questions in addition to making statements?
Sure.
So how many units and how many parking spaces are we looking at this point?
Right now, the application proposes 100 units with 134 parking spaces.
Can I just get your name and
Yeah,
address?
Matt Leary, 83 Nahant Street.
I'm sorry, the last name?
Leary, Leary, 83 Nahant Street.
What is that quantity again? I'm sorry.
100 units at 134 parking spaces.
Does that sound about right? 1.3 parking spots a unit? Is there a number that they recommend for that?
Now, by code, is it 1.5 spaces per?
It depends on the number of bedrooms, but again, this is, they don't have to consider Wakefield zoning.
Normal Wakefield zoning is 1.5.
Yeah.
And so, that's sort of normal, that we would end up with 150 additional cars that need to be parked in this lot.
In our backyard.
Or
We're
back
direct
on the
butters.
Hart Street,
Or not, or first, or all that.
those side streets.
If anybody comes to visit or anything like that.
Or if you have vendors that are coming.
This is
Yeah, come
one
on.
person talking at a time, thank you.
Sure, I'd like that to be part of the consideration, just that it doesn't seem like there's enough parking spots, not to mention the traffic, increased traffic. On Hunt Street. We are direct abutters and 5 stories is massively bigger than the Franklin School. And so the visibility into our, our privacy is completely shot. With the 5-story building.
No sunset, put that in there.
All right, come on, what, please, one at a time, though, because we got to get through this and we got some work to do, so
I'm sorry, 135.
135. Okay, anybody else in that back corner? Moving down the line here.
Let me ask this question, is there any reason we can't go to 10 stories? Why do we stop at 5 stories? I'm so curious,
well-
100 stories, is there a reason that like,
Of course.
can 40B shut down? Is there some limit where 40B is like, let's be reasonable here?
At the end of the day, we're out to develop a successful project. And at 10 stories, we wouldn't even be able to come close to accommodating the parking necessary to accommodate. I mean, there is a scale and mass and consideration internally among developers. And something that's grossly disproportionate at 10 stories, 100 stories, I mean, we're exaggerating now, merging into the ridiculous, but it just wouldn't work.
So I think most people in this room thinks 5 is ridiculous.
Correct.
Just
Perhaps, but
It's also better used by state
It's-
rate mass housing.
But the developers want. to-
Guys, we can't, this isn't a free for all. I'm trying to let people speak and be heard and be put on the public record and for this development team to hear the feedback.
So I'm Annie Leary, I'm the director butter as well, Matt. I'm concerned about the size of the project, obviously I have 5 children. Our privacy, like you said, is gonna be completely shot in my backyard. I'm concerned about the property lines, about the landscaping, about looking out into my backyard and seeing a bunch of cars all of a sudden when I used to see a nice forest in my backyard. I'm concerned about obviously the traffic, and I don't know if it's appropriate to say, but for the record, I think Jason's been a lousy neighbor, and I think he's shown us what he's done with the property.
Terrible.
That pink house,
Terrible.
that basically, I think it's intentionally that they're putting everything in the front yard to make it look like complete junk. It looks like a junkyard in our backyard. Every day I have to look outside and look at it.
Staged and
So
has been the whole
what's
time.
he going to do? Like, I just think it's a terrible thing to honor this, and I think the size is just so massive. I'm gonna come out to my backyard and I'm gonna see. So everyone's gonna see us in my yard, and we're gonna see them in theirs, and it's up in the building. I just think everything about it is very disturbing to me. Makes me want to move.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Allison Jana. I just have a few comments to echo some of these other things. The first all, as you said, safety is a major concern. I'm just going to note that my son, was actually hit by a car on the Hunt Street. November of, I think it was 2019, crossing the street in a crosswalk. So if safety is a concern now, which it has been, it definitely should be. Again, you don't want to talk about it, but the schools can't handle it. I don't know how many these apartments, condos, people buying, selling them, but we have schools. They're gonna be over between all these developments. You can't talk about the schools, but guess what's gonna happen? Kids are gonna have to enroll in school. Kids are gonna go to school. There's gonna be kids there, they're going to school. The schools are overcrowded. And we have taxpayers that no longer have children vested. We are taking into consideration the high school project, the vote project. I mean, how many projects can we possibly afford? Well, no one's gonna be vested. If these are apartments, no one's gonna be vested in the community. They're just gonna come, they're gonna go, they're gonna rent, they're gonna move out. They're not going to care. Another thing that I don't think anybody in this room either is opposed to any development, because it's an eyesore, and it's been an eyesore for a long time. So people wanna see development, like we've talked about, why can't it be a smaller townhouse subdivision of however many units? There's plenty of money to be made there. 3, 2, I don't know, a couple of, big normal 1-story, 1-family houses, or a couple of 2-family houses. I mean, are those things ever considered? Have they been considered? Well, this has all been going on. And again, I think there's been some talk about the support of these projects, of opposing these projects is a problem. But people, here we are, it's busy, it's the winter, everybody is opposed. But again, what you said, can you come to this meeting and talk? Do I wanna talk? Do I feel comfortable talking? The general bottom line here is that there's not anybody in favor of this project. And we can't talk about that project and then the project across the street, and then the project down the street, and then the project on Stock Ave. But in reality, they're all going to affect each other. They're all gonna overlap. But we have to talk about one project at a time. We have different lawyers, we have different this, different that. It doesn't make any sense.
And if I could piggyback on that, a lot of the reasons why people don't come to these meetings is because we come and then people decide against what our wishes are. So a lot of people say, what's the point in going when we feel we're not listened to? Or taken, or have any impact?
Mhm.
And I mean, I live right off of the Hunt Street, it's coming and going. The Woodville School, the Galvin School, the high school, the vote, all day long, it's coming and going. I know it's hard to get out on the street, people are taking corners on two wheels. It's just, it's going to create a bottleneck, you're gonna cut around, you're gonna go down Melbourne, you're gonna cut up, you're gonna go try to go down through Holland, you're gonna cut up Charles Summer. It's just a complete bottleneck, and then never mind what's gonna happen at the very end of the street when Mike's Gym is developed.
Yeah.
So in this one half square mile, a half mile is potentially 4 to 5 major projects. Major.
I understand.
Just say one more thing. The last meeting I came to, we were given like the many stacks of paper, of like drawings, and I think it was Jonathan Chines who said this is super disingenuous, the way this looks, it's not really taking into account the neighborhood in which this building is sitting. And I think that's true, like it showed this street that was not a hot street at all, it looked like it was big and open
Green
and airy,
grass everywhere.
grass. I was like, this is just not the way it looks, it's a massive project for this little neighborhood.
Okay, here. Carl?
Yeah, Carl Jan, 21 Hawk Street.
Go ahead.
It can be noted that I agree with everybody's statement this evening as well. The overall height of the building, what is it? I know that was, talking massing, but I obviously we're doing this backwards. What is the overall height of the building?
It's about 55 feet.
55 feet, and the average height in the buildings in the neighborhood themselves?
I think
We
the height,
did that analysis.
yeah, the height of the buildings varies a lot depending on,
The average,
I don't have an average height for every,
okay,
Building
by looking 50 feet versus, I'd say, most houses 20 to 30 feet tall. This is gonna be, sticking out way above everything else. I think if you look at some of the buildings in town, this is gonna be, in that general area, this is probably gonna be the tallest building right in the downtown area, from that area and anywhere in downtown, which doesn't fit anywhere, as people have already spoken about prior.
I got one other question. For a 5-story building in a residential area, which it is. There are a couple of small commercial buildings, and Precision Owning was a small commercial building. And there's another one across the street, a story and a half, maybe tall. But I'd like to ask anybody in this town, in a residential area where there's no more than a 1 or 2.5 story family, single residence, or even double family residence. How many 5-story buildings are in any other neighborhood in Wakefield? You can see them down by where the commercial properties used to be, down where the transit from was,
Yeah.
Great Loft used to be, down on North Ave, at West Water Street. There's a 4-story, that was USM, used to be a machine shop. The whole Foundry Street corridor, they're building a big building down there, there's 5 or 6 stories. The building that's currently under construction, that's going up, all stick construction, is, you see what they're building along the tracks now, all the brand new wood going up, that's about the size of the building, that's it.
Which is what I was kind of getting at, it's typically when you're building into a neighborhood, you like to assimilate to the neighborhood.
And if
This isn't assimilating to the neighborhood at
And
all.
if this is, if
This
this
is,
building
this
goes
is,
in, if this is the start of it, the first 5-story building, it's only the beginning.
yeah,
Right.
so,
Once they get in, they're gonna start.
All right, guys, it's not a dialogue between
I know.
So in
residents.
regards to massing, so you're sticking, I mean, any direction you come, north, south, east, west, I live right at the corner. And from my backyard, I have a view of the trees, my backyard will give a direct view of the, a 50-foot building now, blocked off from everything else around it. It just doesn't belong. The height, the mass, the width, nothing says that they're assimilating to the neighborhood. It sticks out like
All
a
right,
sore
we got
thumb and it doesn't belong here.
I used to have trees, now I have none.
Yeah, and it's gonna get
On my
worse.
yard.
All right, sir.
Sure, it's Richard Capaccia, 8 Coolidge Road. I agree with everybody said here. The only thing is, I rode up Nahant Street last week and there were 3 houses for sale.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just the beginning. What's the future gonna be like? I mean, I'm ready to sell right now, because if this is the future, I don't care. I've had it. I was a school teacher in Revere for 35 years. And I can remember years ago, when they started on Revere Beach, it was supposed to be
elderly, and then the elderly never took it, so it became section 8. Now, a brand new school, the Garfield School, within 5 years, it was obsolete. They couldn't handle the kids that already. Now look at Revere Beach. This is the future of what you're gonna see. Right by Revere Beach, right all the way into the Point of Pines, there isn't a piece of land on Revere Beach now. And that's the future of what's gonna happen here. And like you said, look at the other ones and the gym, that's just another one. It's just gonna continue. That's it. When I saw the 3 houses for sale, that was that was
Six.
you know, that really hit me last week. 3 houses for sale, and that's
The only one
Okay.
other thing I'll say, and I know safety is not an issue tonight, but all those of us that live off Nahat Street, on Nahat Street. The Wakefield Light Department has been very busy replacing the utility pole. The last 3 months, 2 of them have been splintered in half, so it's not safety.
and I can't even, right, there's a little bit of a rise going up from my house. I can't get onto the Hot Street in the morning. It takes me at least 20 to 30 seconds. That might not seem like a lot, but that's 20 cars that have gone by me that I can't even get in.
Okay, thank you. All right, having gone through the room, but just gonna respond very quickly to your thing. Everything you heard tonight, the board has already told these
I
folks,
believe it, yes.
and we're in complete agreement with a lot of who we are. But
And
it is
thank you for
important
your
that
patience.
it is important that citizens show up, though. It is important. The applicants have to know the concerns out there. So I encourage you to continue to come to future meetings and have your voice be heard.
I find it gets lost in a lot of meetings. Is there one meeting, or it's coming in a lot of meetings, is there one meeting we should all be honed in on?
You
'Cause I
should come
get
to every,
everything from the town, but I don't.
you should go to every meeting that you see this
Zoning.
group. This group is on the agenda. Watch the zoning boards
So
agendas.
should I hone in on zoning?
So as
Yes, you should hone in
That
on
where we're
the
honing in on.
ZBA, zoning board is
Zoning.
deals.
we meet
Who
Wednesday
they are in
nights,
front.
usually the second and fourth Wednesday nights of the month. And as both Mr. Panos and I have said, we go component by component so we can study the project. We chose massing first because we agree with the comment that this is so out of context, so wrongly scaled, too many units, that we felt like that was the elephant in the room.
Well, we also didn't have the traffic.
The traffic's not ready yet either. So we have to start something, Mr. Panos.
If I
Wait,
can.
no, you can't. So that's why we're here doing this. Okay,
Open space, the amount of open space in this current plan on the map.
yeah, with their percentages of open space and pervious and impervious surface, we talk about that when we.
Yeah, I didn't know if like that was part of their,
Site civil.
Site civil discussion will happen.
it's just not there yet.
Well, the date is out there,
It is.
we're just not discussing it tonight. Guys, we gotta get going,
Okay,
so
thank
I
you.
wanna,
Well, thank you.
nothing
against you guys, just against this thing.
I'm sure he never takes it personally. Thank you.
I'll just make a copy.
Oh, sure,
That's
sure,
from
sure.
there's a machine down there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your
You
patience.
can say it, listen,
No.
I guess we're gonna get at it.
Yeah, no, no.
You not job in.
You must be the
Now, the working session.
Yeah, I'm just gonna,
First question or no?
yeah, hold on. The working session is gonna start with the 4 of us.
Yep.
Is anyone online wish to comment on this project? If so, please use the raise hand function on Zoom.
You have only 4.
Yeah, I thought you give them, no one's raising a hand. So why don't we do this?
I'll ask it at the time.
Okay, oh, you can always email too.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Why don't you share your screen?
Yeah,
We'll go through this, and we can also use live, we can use these diagrams too.
let's see.
Let's continue on, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but remember, go longhand.
Yeah,
Don't use the,
I
wish all the people here are the little way.
I know.
Basic.
That's where they should be.
And it wouldn't have been so awkward.
Do you,
Let's see if that works. Files. But not all my files, so.
will let you share screen?
No, I can share screen. When I hit share screen, it says files, but it only gives me Google Drive, Microsoft SharePoint, Dropbox.
Don't try to.
Know what to do? Open it up,
Yeah,
open up the document.
okay,
And then when you hit share screen, it's gonna give you a bunch of windows. One of those should be contain the window with the open one, your open document, and you should be able to double click on that and that will bring it up.
so I just,
See if it'll find the thumb drive file.
oh, it might do that too, share screen, sorry about that. Oh, here we go, right here. Should we just confine it to this?
Yeah, why don't we start there?
I mean, the black and white is a boring
Yeah.
version of that,
That's
so,
fine.
and this has a little
I
more.
could talk through what you sent us.
But can you actually see the detail? It's kind of tiny on mine.
There's not much detail in there.
You should be able to blow it up a little bit.
Um,
Like if you X out of over on your left, I'll see
Oh, yeah,
all
yeah,
tools,
yeah,
X out of that.
there we go.
And then there
Little.
should be up top or, hold on. There should be, But the
I mean,
top,
that's pretty good.
that's,
Yeah.
we'll make,
Hold on, I'm gonna get rid of these comments. Like that, should I close that? Did it just get bigger?
it did.
Okay. So,
Well, let's back up a little bit
yeah,
and start. You've heard the board,
yes,
you heard the neighbors.
yeah. I have, and we
And
heard
you
it,
heard, you've got the input from the fire chief, and the fire chief's letter just wasn't about turning radius for vehicles in the parking lot. You've heard from the town engineer with some concerns. You've heard planning board who raised some very points. How we go forward with the scale of this building as it is, I mean, we have to have a principled discussion here.
Here's the problem. Okay, in having the massive discussion first. And I tried to say this at the beginning of the. I don't wanna come across heavy-handed. I've just been doing this for a very long time and there's a process. And the process. And not every developer or attorney, by the way, treats it the same way I do. Okay, but I so heavily rely on the peer review. Comments from a fire chief, he's important.
You are on mute.
Density concern, I'm just telling you that we are holding the line on density right now. Because I have nothing to go on to tell us that density is an issue.
Well, you gotta,
So
I
And
gotta-
I get the anecdotal comments, I've been hearing them for months. I'm not
Okay,
dense.
so how do you,
So we're modulating we're modulating the massing, and that's what we came here tonight to talk about.
yeah, you've done a little bit of stuff.
Oh,
but
well,
nothing significant.
Oh, well, that's not true.
No,
we-
in my opinion, you have done nothing significant.
We started with this because we don't wanna spend time spinning our wheels. Going through what's going to result in a redesign of the actual floor plans in the building until we're on the same page. And if we're not on the same page, then let's just continue hearing the original application, but I disagree with you, and I think you need to at least hear from the design team to explain what this does.
I know what, so I think you're treating me like this is the first time I've done.
No, I'm not.
Here,
I'm
I've
not.
been on the ZBA for 22 years.
Mhm.
Okay, I have seen every 40B in this town.
Sure,
I have been through all the majority of the working groups on the 40B.
sure,
So I get the process.
right.
And I understand, I'm in construction, I get all of it, I understand all of
Yeah,
it. I understand where you're coming from, and I've
thank
had
you,
the same arguments with you that I've had with many lawyers
sure.
for 40B. 40B is not a fun subject. All right, you're chosen it, you probably love it,
I was the ZBA chair for 10 years in the city.
okay, so you get it,
Okay,
okay, so
I've been on both sides.
my struggle is.
Yeah.
Where do we start and where do we go? Working within the confines of 40B for 180 days. You know what I'd love you to tell me?
What's that?
Is that, listen, we haven't got traffic yet. We got tied up a year TAC. I need traffic to really start about the density. We can have small conversations about this. But we're really gonna start the clock once we have the traffic study done. And once we've gone in front of the TAC with the traffic study. So we can get the peer review on that,
Yeah.
and then let's have 180 days from that time
So
to
let me-
discuss all the rest of the aspect.
I appreciate the question and the ask. I'm not at liberty to give that to you.
Okay, but I would put it back to your owner,
Sure,
because that's what I hear the argument be.
but just so I can understand the process, when we
I'm
have
not
other,
sure I know it.
when we have the traffic, well, you've been through it.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
and
no,
I have to
no,
tell
when
you,
you have-
Wakefield is unique. The way you guys approach things.
It's very different than other
It's a little different, okay?
We're very hands-on
So,
as a ZBA.
and that's great, by the way, I applaud that. The question I had is, once our traffic study is done, and it may now need some new tweaking, if this is something that you want us to pursue and go down the path of. But I submit the traffic study to you, to the ZBA.
And to the
And
TAC.
to the
immediately.
TAC. Where are we having our hearings on traffic, there or here?
TAC.
Ah,
But that being said,
can we consolidate that into a working group, or?
I want a full public hearing at the board with our public safety people there.
Yeah, but we really.
On traffic,
On traffic,
yeah,
once, but.
that's what I would be
That
used
would
to
be
doing.
before, and then we also would, but that wouldn't be the only conversation.
No,
The other
No.
conversation would be with TAC and their record.
but that's a side working group almost.
You won't get this group at a TAC meeting, it's 10:30 in the morning and.
Oh, it is, it's that.
You've been to, didn't you go to the one?
No,
You
that was
said
Tony
eight. You
Capichetti
said
and
eight.
Scott
Okay.
Thornton from Vanessa.
From the, well, Vanessa's been through this process 50 times with us.
And that's why I
in
let
the
them-
last 5 years.
I let them guide that process, because again, they're the ones who set up the TAC meeting because they know everybody.
Correct,
Tony Capichetti and Scott Thornton, they know everybody in town.
yeah,
So I let them set that up and I said, hey, just tell me what happened.
So, yeah.
which is
So,
fine,
what, yeah, we're, TAC meets when Lieutenant, why is it his name?
Anderson,
Anderson is on duty. You know, and that,
well, when he's available,
Yeah.
yeah. He works nights, but they'll put a meeting together for this. As soon as you get your, and you've met with them.
Will they do a memo to the board? as to
Yes,
what
at
their
the end, they
findings?
do a memo,
And
once you, so let's say they meet.
Yeah,
And they say, okay, we think about this, we think about that, we have this problem, that problem.
yeah,
You then come back and say, this is what we're giving you, they would then come back. Again, it's a working group.
Yeah.
So that you end up somehow collectively deciding what's best. And then they present their paper to the board, once you guys have done yours,
and when they do that, we generally have them
come to the meeting.
come to the meeting. Because people are,
Oh, good.
in the neighborhood are always interested in the traffic.
yeah.
So let me ask you this on the,
And at that point, I'll have Scott Thornton come to our meeting as well, because it'll be peer to peer.
Yeah, exactly.
correct,
Yep. I'm sorry.
correct. Do you know on the scoping, did they include the 2 other 40Bs on the Hot Street?
I don't know, I can tell you that 32 Nahant Street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At my suggestion, hired Vanessa,
Right,
because same data. I assume, I don't know that they had their scoping meeting, but I assume it's gonna be the same.
I just wanna make sure we're picking up all,
Yeah, well, I don't know about the other, where's the other 40B located?
it's further down, I don't know the exact address off the top of my head.
Which
I'd have to
one?
look that up.
Which one are you thinking of?
Further down the Hot.
that's
There's
32,
32.
that's
Oh, that is the
32.
one in Stark?
There's one.
Oh,
close to
the
end of
Star.
Avenue.
Stark, that's the third.
Okay,
Have we seen Stark yet?
No,
No,
we know.
I have nothing to do with that one.
Very basic.
It's just, you know, and Tom Mullen can talk with you about this, but I'm working with the attorney at 32 Nahan. Because the HAC has consolidated all the cases.
right, for, I
All
called,
the
said that
notes.
whole thing, for
Right,
the,
So,
yeah, because you got, for the,
so
for the appeal.
I basically indicated to Paul Haverty, I said, why don't you just hire our traffic consultant? It's all the same.
Yeah,
No, that would be helpful.
which makes
So-
sense, and I
So
know,
to that, I guess they will have us, they will probably have some element of coordination, if not implied coordination, because the same guy's doing the
yeah,
traffic
and
studies.
Anderson will push that from a
And-
TAC stand.
And I know that, were you involved in the traffic TAC? No. So I know that there are some intersection improvements planned along the Hunt Street. And they wanted, and this is the limit of my knowledge on this, they wanted us to focus on those intersections.
Right, at
And
the high
our
school,
proposed impacts.
there's a new roundabout being put in with the new
Yeah.
high school. Which is at the end of Nahant Street, I mean,
Yep.
there, just so you know, there's a lot of shit happening, oh, excuse me, recording. There's a lot of stuff happening on Nahant Street right now.
Yeah.
And it's always been a
Is it
tough
all-
road,
Is it good stuff?
no,
That's
I
happening.
mean, the roundabout at the end of the high school is a good thing, because Nahant will now line up with the road at the high school, which is now offset and dangerous. And again, it's all safety, but like the woman said tonight, there's 100 kids to 120 kids
Yeah.
or more walking up and down Nahant Street every day.
I'd say
And-
more, because middle
Four,
school's
middle
here,
school.
one and high school's on the other.
And the vote,
So reread the DPW memo, because they expressed some concerns. I'm gonna make sure that Lieutenant Anderson sees that. They expressed some concerns about traffic in on both ends, but they had some concerns about Main Street as well.
yeah,
So those are gonna need,
Because I know that DPW or at least engineering is. And I'll forward that to Scott Thornton, by the way, but with regard to the traffic. But I know that Hayes is working with the engineering department and DPW on. Water tie-ins and connections, they want us to camera certain things.
right, I mean,
So-
Hayes is the right group, because they're involved in town and a lot of this stuff. But again, let's get back to my point of how do we proceed?
Yeah.
Right, you don't wanna talk about the size of the building until you have your peer review on traffic. I get that, I'm okay with that, if we're not just sitting here twiddling our thumbs within the 180 days.
That's my concern. Chip.
That's my,
I don't think, I think we have a lot to discuss about this. And I really do think. And by the way, we haven't gotten the project team, the developer team approval for this. We wanted to float it by you to see if this is something you wanted us to pursue. Because I know what your opinion is, but
I mean, we're certainly willing to talk about
we
it.
think that this addresses and modulates a lot of your massing concern. Now, we haven't done the shadow study yet, and now we may not do it until this gets baked in. But can we have a few minutes for Stefano to walk you through?
I'm
this?
not trying to tell you we won't,
Yeah,
but we're saying. Until you're ready to make the density conversation, I'm happy to hear how you think this is helping, but 5 stories in my mind.
yeah,
I can't, a little bit of pushback or a drop back of a floor doesn't do it in my mind yet. Because because 5 stories, as you heard tonight, is so overwhelming in the neighborhood.
so I just wanna make it clear, I'm not gonna be prepared to have a density discussion. If I even get there until the very end. Not
See,
not
that's
just, it's not
difficult
just
because-
traffic.
See, and no other project or 40B that I've ever worked on has that been the case.
Yeah.
And every 40B that has come in front of us, and I'll say every, and you can look at the history.
Sure.
Has knocked off at least a floor, if not more,
But
from
we
what they
already,
began.
we already did that with the mass housing process. Keep in mind, we started off with 120 units.
So that, it doesn't, because you started with something ridiculous and got knocked back, that doesn't move me at all. Right, you know, if mass housing push you back, I mean, they're on record, they're supporting Maura Healy's reelection campaign and wanna come back and say we created X number of housing units across the state. There's no housing unit they don't like, the fact that they pushed you back tells me your initial thing was, I still think this is ridiculous, but that was beyond ridiculous.
No, look,
Well, yeah.
they care, okay, mass housing cares. And
We're gonna agree to
look,
disagree.
I don't wanna get into a political discussion,
Right.
but
Yeah, it's probably
having,
better not to.
having done this for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
I can tell you the evolution of how mass housing looked at this. Keep in mind, project eligibility letters, when I first started this, I used to write them for banks. That's how it evolved. Mass housing had very little to do with regard to site control issues and design. And then in 2001, 2, that all changed because it was not a great process for any, it wasn't level. And then you have the design handbook that came out, and we designed this according to the state design handbook, and I think this probably fits better in the context of the 40B design handbook. These are documents and instruments that we have to rely on. So I hear the concerns.
But as a
density
developer,
massing,
you
but
also have
I
to.
can't come out of the gate and say, yeah, we're gonna.
But then you,
Okay.
and again, you can't say, but I'm gonna go back to, cause we asked this, that you've gotta really think. If you wanna do this density discussion, after all the data's in.
Yep.
You gotta really, we're gonna really push you, and I think it's an appropriate request. To think about extending the 180 days, cause I feel like the clock's running out. Right, that clock's running. And if we don't get this traffic study, then we have these meetings with TAC, then we have the public meeting, then we, you know.
We're gonna not have.
That's gonna be quick.
Where are we right now? What's our last date? June 7th? Is that 180
Yeah.
days? Because we've already extended it out, plus you had the
You extended 1 week, I think.
Well, got
2 weeks, and
And
then
it
you
got-
got the safe harbor.
Meeting, yeah.
the safe,
Month and a half.
it told during safe harbor.
It did, yes.
So mid-December, plus 2 weeks. Probably the clock started ticking again at our December 14th hearing when you guys introduced the project.
I
That's
think
what I
roughly,
think was.
I
your
think
presentation.
a calculation I came up with and I put it in the continuance letter
Yeah,
was
right.
June 7th. I wanna say, I'm
That's a date I remember. I
And
don't
now
know
with-
what it was there for.
now with
just
the 2
sitting
weeks,
off the top of my.
now with the 2 weeks, it's like June 20th. But here we are though, and
Yeah, so let's,
So we're the first week of February. So anyway, I would put that to you
I'll-
to discuss and think about.
so I don't think that the traffic study, even if you guys decide that this is a good pursuit. Really, all we're talking about here are site distances and whether to make one ways,
Right,
you know, with
that's
regards to
something for
circulation.
TAC to discuss.
But Scott Thornton, I think, conveyed
Yeah.
that it's not a huge setback, because I know he's already studied. Those intersections and he's already started inputting the data, so I'm not sure that this is gonna be a major deal. But if.
But
If we
I'd love
could,
to hear your
yeah.
thoughts on the front of the building and
Right.
what we've done.
Yeah,
the front of the building, even with the presentation that you made the first time, was right on top of the street. It was
Yeah.
looming
They
big
pushed
time.
us back a little bit today,
Right, I see
20
that.
feet,
and yeah,
Where were
well,
you?
you were 15 before.
You moved it back 5 feet?
it was 5 feet at its narrowest before.
It's not 15, but you can remind.
No, it was almost right on the street, wasn't it?
It was.
19 feet at this narrowest. No, this is the new thing.
Yeah, the original is a lot closer.
So what's also very helpful often is to superimpose old versus new. So that we can say, this is what you had,
Right.
this is what we've done.
And we can definitely do that, we just wanted to put a concept on paper.
Yeah.
So talk to us about your concept.
Yeah, please, Stefan.
So the proposed scheme originally had 5-story piece in the front along Hahn Street. I think it was about 8 feet or so off the property line. We had a smaller step back on the front.
And you know, is there a sidewalk along this road? I can't remember. I think there's something decrepit there now.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know whether it's really a sidewalk or a curb or what it is. Yeah, what is that? Is that a sidewalk
Looks like a little.
of
yeah.
something? I mean, it's not much.
Well, Precision Honing has a pretty wide driveway. They were getting trucks in
They
and out
got a
of there.
couple driveways.
And I think the trucks are pretty much destroyed if there was one there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Everything.
So I don't know, have you met with engineering to know whether there's, I mean, there'd have to be a sidewalk on this new project. Have you talked about that, or where the lot line versus where the curb line is? Do you guys know that at this point?
I wish Tony were here, did Tony survey? He did survey.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for a survey plan.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we had an existing.
Oops, you got it?
Yeah.
Here we go.
So Stefan, when you're talking, if you could go to the front of your computer.
Yep.
Unmute it, I will mute mine. We do need a record of the dialogue.
Sure thing.
Am I muted?
You could be, I don't know.
I'm muted and I have my volume turned up.
So do turn it. This is the. Here we go. Curb cut. This is the.
In the public way.
It's in the public way, but there is a walk. But look, this one. You know, that's the entrance to this one, so really in front of the whole property, there's very curb and all.
I think I think it
I've driven by. Sat down here, just, you know.
So. That's the.
See, yeah, so right here is that kind of, call it a sidewalk, it's not. But you're not proposing at this point, keep going, but you're not proposing in your work to put a sidewalk in.
This is very conceptual.
Yeah.
We're more thinking about the massing.
Okay.
The height.
But let's stick with the sidewalk conversation for a second. I mean, this is something that would improve the project. So we would be totally open to sidewalk improvements, especially if it allowed for better access of our residents to pass in front, not only your, the existing residents in the Hunt Street. This is a great
Right.
example of why a 40B is not a zero-sum game, okay? We can contribute to some significant improvements in this neighborhood, and that being one of them. So we're totally open to that.
Yeah, I think DAC would come up with that too.
Sure.
I don't think-
I'm sorry, Stefan.
Yeah, but keep going, so. There's something out there.
Sure.
So instead of having mostly 5-story building on along the Hunt Street with a 5-foot setback, we're proposing in purple 4 stories and pushing more of the massing to the back. If you remember from the presentation previously, we had held back about 45 feet off the rear leg of the building. Not quite in this location, right? But so now we're moving more of the building height to the back of the site to hold the building height down along the street.
So that proposal has 3 floors of residence, 1 floor of parking for 4 floors on the street.
Correct.
So what does that put the height at on the front
So that would be around 44 feet.
for the 4 stories?
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
What are the
10 to
setbacks?
11.
I see there's a job there, but at the closest points,
19,
yeah,
30 to the west. 39.
And that's to the
east.
law line, which you actually have more to the sidewalk and then to the street.
And the civil engineer put together this site plan layout, so he's showing conceptually some bump in, bump outs. You could change the
So
siding.
that's
height.
not your plan?
No, this
You
is
haven't
from,
done the bump ins yet?
correct, we haven't done any.
Okay, so
architectural
there's
changes.
no renderings of what this would look like,
Correct,
either height or bump ins.
correct.
So what do you think about the bump ins?
Yeah, we could change the spacing, we could have more of a deep push pull if that's advantageous. We could bring in, bump in on the end, we could bump out bays, we're open to the building design, the way that you think might help to offset the height of the building.
Well, that's not our design, that's your design.
Yeah.
That's the discussion, is what do you think you can do to make it better? What's your thoughts? Not necessarily the civil guy's thoughts.
I mean, I think in general, we like the aesthetic of the building. I think we're looking at keeping that design intent and moving the massing and the height around on the site. So if we hear from you that, there's a certain area that's critical to pull the building further away, we'd be open to some of those changes. We heard from the fire department about the loop, so they've added the driveway all around the building. I think concerns like that are what would inform our design changes.
one of the things, that you did hear from us was that in the building is nature, and I took that as too much brick, too much. So if you're in, with the exception of the Franklin Street, the old school building, Franklin School, you know what, if you go up and down the street, it's wood frames. And there might be an oddball brick house here or there, but it's.
And the Franklin School is an oddball, because it's the old school.
Right.
So, I don't want to get too deep in that, we'll stick with your presentation tonight, but if you can start to think about that, yeah, that's gonna be consistent theme in the year.
I will also tell you that the other consistent theme that you'll hear is blending into the neighborhood, not necessarily from a structure standpoint, but the structure. If you've got a ranch, and then 5 stories, maybe it's starting at the third, where you're taking a story off the front, pushed to the back. Well, maybe it's, it comes in at 2, then 3, then 4, if you're staying at the same massing. But not just these big walls me, that's the massive, right? When you're driving down the Hahn Street, bam, you hit that big wall. So whether
Yeah.
it's tearing it in, stepping it back like you've done is a good start.
Quite right. This, it's still shocking, like, if you're coming down here, that's a shocking. Right, even with the pullback here, you don't experience the pullback on this side. That looks like a flat wall. So to Chip's point, something has to be done, which is why we asked for these renderings, entering both sides. I still would like to see one from across the street, the woman that lives across the street, a couple people. What it looks like there.
I
And
got
I'd
you.
like to experience it as a pedestrian. To some point, I know those will take time, but, you know, I think the board wants to see that, I think that would be helpful, I think it would be helpful for the public as well.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Mr. Prentice, if you're planning on staying
Jason.
at 100 units.
Mhm.
Then these are the comments that I would make. As to how to make that possibly work. I'm not telling you that that's the right number or not, because I don't think it is, but, but. To take the concerns of the neighborhood about the massing of this project, you gotta blend it into the neighborhood. You gotta make it not so blunt on the front. And just kind of, I'm not an architect, that's why you pay him, but it's.
So as it's proposed, and I'm asking through the chair to
This is a
Stefano.
working group, you don't
Is
have to
this-
ask for anything. This is
All right, cool. This would come off.
Right, so the purple being 4 stories, we wipe off this fifth floor.
I got you.
So what I'm hearing is
And there wouldn't be this bump out either,
right,
because it'd be step back.
the brick siding is viewed as too urban. So we can get rid of the brick, that's no problem. Maybe more of a sloped roof scheme, so if we're 4 stories on the front, the 4th story can be like an occupied roof with more of a dormer scheme, we can mix up. Sometimes we do, cable dormer, shed roof, like break up the rhythm a little bit, so.
Mansard?
Mansard
Mansard?
roof we've done before too, I haven't seen a lot of that in the neighborhood.
Take the cues from the neighborhood,
Yeah,
I think you heard that strong. That board meeting. That looks more like, the town passed. They were referencing Foundry Street, the town passed, some form of zoning around transit up there.
Right.
And they were trying to get, I think they were trying to get Foundry Street redeveloped with it because it's all polluted and property, it's working extensively, yeah. But they're
And
getting.
this would be fine for that street.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not fine for Nahant.
No, it was kind of funny because I distinctly remember the comment from Mr. McBain, who's no longer on your board.
Trust me, all my comments tonight
yeah.
on Mr. McBain.
Well,
I've worked with him too long.
the funny thing is how ugly he thought the design was, and then after that hearing, Stefano and I went to the SB Design, website, and we were,
oh, but this is,
I couldn't tell the difference.
we designed a different building for
Yeah.
a transit oriented development.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, you heard tonight, if you look at take him aside, the average age of the people that were in here, the people lived on Pond Street 30 years.
Long time.
People have gone literally from horse and carriage on the Pond Street to not being able to get out their drive.
Yeah.
And when you had 100 units here and the 32 units down the street, 20 units down the street, we took a lot happen, right? On the
Yeah.
Pond Street, the high school at the end. And people are nervous and rightfully so.
We're living in an interesting time with regard to housing production in the Commonwealth.
And by the way, we're going through this whole thing with the MBTA. All that stuff now, the rezoning of all of that.
Right.
And the town's getting hit hard on a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
You might be the first architect that brought straight in paper with them.
Doesn't work very well for Zoom.
Well, I would have just done this way, the town still wants new project. Town still wants new project, I would have just done
In person.
it.
It's easier to do 100% remote or in-person hybrid, it's really tough.
never had a problem.
It is what it, I mean, it, yeah, Zoom is good in many respects. It's. Are you gonna be going to in-person meetings, Bob?
At some, some, we have a room that can handle the hybrid.
Yeah.
So we're creating a room in the public safety building that can go hybrid. And not cloudy like this.
Disadvantage you guys, you don't turn the mass during the station.
Oh, great. Oh, my God. I need to hire an attorney of a different kind, is that what you're telling me?
So, I mean, this is a perfect example of how that just doesn't fit, right? You're going down and hit this building, this is next to it. Bam, you're right there. That's the massing that we're
Even the
talking
school
about.
has a very generous setback, a lot bigger than. So although there's some scale to that building, because of the setback, and in fact, I think it's on the corner, I think it doesn't, it's not as jarring as you would go.
My question would be, and I don't know the site well enough, I don't think you can't reverse the thing. I don't think you can do this, right? You can't get the main structure of the body of the building back.
The problem is, there's such a, well, parking, you can accommodate. It's the rock cropping in the back of the property.
That's right, that goes straight up and we don't.
This gentleman who was sitting here, you need, well, I guess you're gonna have to, your site, still, I don't want to get off track.
Yeah.
But I went out and stood at the property, when that was a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and this will definitely take care of that, but, and the other thing I picked up on with regard to the removal of the vegetation, I mean, we've got a robust landscaping plan proposed, so that at least is going to get better.
Yeah, I'm just so, this against the street is so jarring. When you're on the sidewalk and where Tom is talking about, what does this look like going up? So even at 4 stories, you're 45 feet. You're on the sidewalk, even if you're 20 feet away. I mean, I think I'm in Boston. Malden, right? A lot of people reference Malden. Or even if this was Boundary Street, because we've got a lot of 4 or 5 Boundary Street, it would be appropriate. It's just not appropriate here.
We do have some great change that we can play with, trying to get down and sink the building a little bit more.
What do you try that?
You know, we can get the eave line, right? If we do the occupied attic story for the 4th floor, we can get the eave line down close to 30 feet, depending on where the final grade falls. The ridge is obviously going to be higher, but it's going to help with the perceived height.
Yeah, right. So I think these are the things you need to play with. And coming back, whether it's, we don't have to go to massing again at our next meeting. Because if you want to come to the working group and talk about some of this stuff, as you said, to carry it through, are we going in the right direction? You can do drawings like that as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to go to renderings and all of that until we get, as a working group, say, okay, this is something we would bring to the full committee. I will tell you, they'll shoot us, and I know you don't want to hear it.
Right.
If we come back with, this is 100 units, but designed better. That just know that we probably can't do that, so.
I got it.
You're in a tough spot with your client.
Well,
We're
but
in a tough spot with our contingency.
I
They send
got
us
it.
out, they're like, you guys better make progress on this or we're all in trouble. So we've come not with a mission, but because we both feel that it's probably too big or too. But these are the type of conversations that a working group should be having.
I agree.
So, because you can't do this in a full meeting.
No. Especially, I mean, have you had any consideration of So you guys meet twice a month.
Correct.
Are your agendas that big? That
Oh, we
long
go
every,
from 7 o'clock till 10 easily every meeting.
every meeting?
That's what people are tired of, you know? Trust me, the way you get treated, I vote against some of these things, I still walk around now, and people are like, what are you doing?
No, I got it. I just, it just puts it in a bind. What I was gonna suggest is carve out like one of your hearings for 40B alone. And move your regular hearings to, especially 32 and this, because,
Right.
but to add a third meeting in a month is a lot. For a volunteer board. It's a lot. This isn't the city of Boston where you're getting paid 80 grand. I know because I was there. I was there.
8 grand, I think.
80.
To the ZBA in Boston.
80.
So I think thought wise, have we given you anything to work with?
This is perfect direction.
Okay. How soon do you want to come back with something? Again, I don't want to spin wheels because.
No, I don't
our
either.
Mission is.
I don't either.
To reduce the numbers.
I don't want to spin wheels. I do want to get you the traffic study. And if we are going to, I mean, what are we talking about for potential site changes?
To get the. It's
Are we still keeping this? Are we still trying to keep this loop around?
You may tell me that
Issue?
that's the best way to do your thing. I'm just.
Well, it's the only way we can accommodate the fire chief's primary concern of access to all sides of the building. Is to center the building into the property.
To all sides without being able to drive around the whole thing.
Well, you can do that with what we proposed initially.
You only had parking on one side. You
Yeah,
didn't have anything to the back side.
I got you.
So you can still get, if you did, 2 sides. I mean, this certainly addresses the fire chief's idea of getting around the whole thing.
So.
Which, yeah,
Here's where I get worried about the 180 days. What are we doing next? You're giving them some direction here, we're waiting for this traffic stuff. Do you have any idea when that's coming in and when we can?
no, I was expecting it. Hold on, Scott
I
did,
don't know, you mentioned February 14th, you thought you were gonna be able to have.
yeah, no, that was the edict. Hold on a sec, let me just see if I can. Scott Thornton.
Because if we don't have the TAC study and then discuss traffic, we're gonna be down to 90 days in February.
But
Which doesn't give us any time.
if we could at least do a traffic presentation. Let's say we have it for the 14th and we could do a traffic presentation and get the ball rolling because the traffic is gonna take at least a couple of meetings.
Couple meetings as well as getting on the TAC's agenda
Right,
and getting their review.
right.
I'm gonna strongly.
That's what I mean, a
I'm
couple of,
strongly suggest you require. As quick as you can, tomorrow you can. And see what their schedule is. Even if you have to push yourself back once, if you're not ready, get on there as soon as you can.
yeah, hold on a second.
But I
Let me,
think sometimes they only meet once a month.
Or as needed. They will meet as they need.
yeah, I mean, if Steve Mayo puts in a request for a special meeting, they would comply. Yeah, because I really do want to get going on that. And the other thing are utilities. I mean, I don't know that Tony has a good handle on the utility tie-in situation. I think he knows what's going on through his conversations with the city engineer, town engineer. I just don't think he knows internally in the site. He was asked to camera some lines. And I don't know if he's done that yet. Hold on a sec, let me text Scott.
have we given you enough direction for this round?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Because by the way, even if you take what you're thinking about and just take a story off the whole thing. You might as well put some of those out there just to see how it works. But even if you did, your efforts here, you're still hearing about coming into the neighborhood and how not to make that bad, so.
And I know you don't wanna hear it, but if you did shrink the number, you could push your mass towards the back, because you would need so many parking spaces.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens to your space that would be better, but you guys can have that conversation.
I just texted Scott about the traffic. So
That's gonna be like, don't you know I work 9 to
Scott Thornton,
5? No,
yeah, he sure does. Not when he's on my project.
so I'm not sure that there's a whole lot more we can do tonight.
My project team is used to 3 in the morning emails from me.
Do you have anything else you wanna do? I mean, the call of the meeting is now, since we're on straight too far.
No.
It's easy for us to put together schematic elevation, say of the front facade.
Yeah.
You know, we can either do it by hand really quick and throw some materials on to get to the photorealistic rendering.
No,
It's
that's
tough,
not,
'cause you almost
that's
need to
not
know.
until, first of all, from a cost perspective. That's not until we say, okay, it's worth to bring this back to the committee. Say, that's
So,
when those.
We give you direction, but at the end of the day, we don't speak. Everybody.
Right. Did we ever get a count on who the permanent members are now? Okay. Just so I can get an idea.
That is on.
I mean, we don't have any votes coming up, so anytime soon. But administratively, it would be good to know. And Tom's been great to work with. We've been duking it out at the House of Appeals. I'm sure he's,
The best.
I'm sure he is, I'm sure he has been briefing you guys.
No, actually, well, we got that email from. That we're doing the.
But we've been to the 40Bs too, you know, we don't. We're fairly independent. You know, the memos we get from, I sent out the letter to the chair, we get the letters back.
Sure. Oh, Scott Thornton did get that. We just got the plans for the roundabout improvements today. That's the town. We should be able to wrap these studies. Oh, well, here we go. We should be able to wrap up these studies tomorrow, and then I need to review them. So they should be ready for the team review Monday or Tuesday. So you're not gonna get it in time for the Friday. I know you like your materials the Friday before.
I wouldn't ask to have something submitted on Tuesday and expect the board. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
Be ready to discuss it down.
Everybody.
It would have to go, we need a weekend, especially for the heat, for the traffic stuff.
So knowing that the traffic analysis is probably gonna spill over to 2 or even 3 meetings, especially where you're meeting every other week.
What probably happened we would meet, correct me if I'm wrong. We would meet on the 21st, if you want to have that be our traffic conversation. Then we would give you our feedback with the traffic 21st, no, 28th. 28th.
That's your next meeting?
No, the next meeting is the 14th, but you're not gonna have yours.
No, I mean, that's the meeting after the 14th.
That's the meeting, the 28th.
Mhm.
If we put that to traffic, then we would give you our feedback. You probably wouldn't have been in front of PAC again. By then, we'd probably tell you, okay, this is our feedback. Go to TAC, get their feedback, wait for their memo, and then have a conversation about traffic again. after that.
Because in essence, TAC is your peer review on traffic.
It is our peer.
And they're using BHB, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they are now.
They're BHB, I don't think it's BHB anymore.
Another Vanessa?
No,
Because they all broke off from the same Vanessa.
Yeah, some iteration of that. If the town
Okay,
peer review with police and fire.
right.
So we would have the meeting with fire, police, us, you, your traffic consultant. Then you'd be taking yours to TAC, we'd be getting TAC back. That would probably be the next conversation. Or you would give us an update and say, we went to TAC, they suggested X, Y, Z, we're doing X, Y, Z.
But I guess the question I was about to ask is, would you be opposed to a presentation on traffic on the 14th, knowing that you're gonna spill over? Even though you didn't get the memo, the traffic study? Like, I can have Scott come and do his presentation to you, and then you'll have another couple of weeks to,
We wanna have that meeting be worthwhile.
yeah, so you can ask
So I'd
questions and
rather
so forth.
Have
Okay,
it, have fire be able to review it, police be able to review it, and then,
and they only need a weekend for that?
Well,
no,
no.
it's still gonna be different than TAC.
I wanna think this through.
Yeah, feel free. You're the chair. I'm just,
It makes sense to me to have the TAC meeting first. And have the subject matter experts at the table.
Okay,
Discussing the traffic study.
Yep.
And then, following that, a full presentation to the board with your subject matter experts. And our peer review of the fire representative.
totally makes sense.
Police representative. In the public hearing. So that questions come up from both the board and then the public. Everybody's there. Like, we can answer any question. And
Yeah,
does that make sense?
makes perfect sense. We've never done it that way before, but it makes perfect sense.
but what
I'm just saying
what,
we've done it in the past.
what that idea allows the opportunity for is, if TAC can come up with their memo after we meet with them, and to the extent they have constructive comments, we can take that and say, hey, we can fix that here, we can do this, we can do that. And
At
then
least
come,
be able to say that.
Yeah.
Public hearing, we've heard this, we're studying this. And if you don't have every answer, we'll be back at the next meeting
right,
with a formal response.
and that's why I kind of like that.
But when do you think you're gonna, so you.
I'm
See,
gonna
this is
have the
my
traffic
problem.
study next week.
Right, so, but then you gotta get on TAC's agenda
Well, that's why I said he should be calling the comprehensive tomorrow.
tomorrow, and say, we're
Okay.
gonna have this.
Just get on the next one,
But what do we do till then?
that. Well, that's my whole frustration with what I've been talking about with. Cause I don't see next week. I don't wanna, you know. What would
We have nothing to talk about on the 14th.
Can't do engineering.
Not really. till-
I mean, we can do, well. The site design, I don't know if they've done the test pits yet. But the stuff regarding stormwater management and that type of thing, I think that's pretty well designed, and I don't think that's gonna change too
Well,
much.
it'll change if your parking lot, then your count of number of spaces and all that,
That's true.
right? So there is gonna be a lot. It really all stems from the traffic. And what you're willing to do after that conversation.
For traffic and parking.
Yeah, for traffic and parking, so to do site civil without knowing that parking is set at X amount of spaces.
And the other thing that we will ultimately do once we have our parking lot set is, we'll give you a plan that shows, the 3 different types of trucks for traffic circulation. The fire truck, the Amazon type truck, and
that's all
the trash truck.
That's all PAC stuff,
That's TAC or DPW
PAC.
Yeah,
with regard to circulation through the site?
Circulation is PAC, parking's PAC,
Okay,
all of that goes to TAC, because that's all your traffic stuff.
then we have our peer reviewer and police and fire, so. That, I'm looking for, I don't know if I have it with me in your file, it's huge, but. If you could just ask Scott, I don't want to lose As he's finishing up that job, then look at the DP.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward that to him tomorrow. I have a note. I have a note for that.
I don't wanna waste everyone's time. Because they're not going on.
Is 32 Nahat coming before you? Cause
Yeah.
they,
They took a continuance,
right,
but Mr. Allen. I probably wouldn't get that.
well, you'll know if he does a submission by tomorrow.
But not everyone's. So.
Well, I mean, that's why, yeah, I see. You want TAC to weigh in before we even do a presentation for you guys.
What I don't want is.
Because we could have something to talk about on Wednesday night, even if it's just
The work itself we're talking about, correct? Yeah, 50 members of the public, with all these questions, and we don't got a single in.
right. Right.
And
You don't necessarily have to take testimony at every hearing either, public comment.
But we do.
Yeah, no,
That's a policy without.
I'm just suggesting it.
No
I'm-
public comment.
Well, they can't do that,
No, but they can
They-
take one.
but you know, I've been to different towns where they've said tonight, we're only listening. We're only listening to the traffic presentation. We're not taking public comment tonight.
But you also
You know-
heard tonight, that people who get on to the developer, there is significant concern in that neighborhood. And they're all gonna wanna say something. I don't want, I'm the chair, I'm not going to. So
Sure, I did not expect this tonight.
I didn't either.
I would just, it would be helpful for all of us. We heard basically the public hearing all over again. And I'm like, where were these people? They could have. They should be showing up, like you said, at the hearings. They're open hearings. Everybody's invited.
See, this is the first working group that I've been involved in.
Yeah.
Working public here. So I was.
I'm taking my.
I know, you're taking it, I get it, I'm just saying, so I wasn't ready for this.
Well, this.
I wasn't either.
This is why you did public first.
Look at the room I got.
Yeah.
I know. And they cleared out immediately, which was, I mean, look. When we do the side working group meetings, typically with peer reviewers, I usually don't even show up to them. It's usually Stefano or Tony Capichetti or Scott Thornton, and they go off. And it's only when a conversation breaks down where I
Yeah.
get back involved. But if they've got, so there's one city in particular, the DPW director usually directed all of the peer review. And what he would do was, and he made us hire peer review consultants, which they're entitled to do, you're entitled to do, that we pay for. And what he would do is he would cull all of their comments, their memos, and he would do this huge memo. And I'm not kidding, memos were like 50 pages long. And then the attachments, and my goal was always, and I'd done a few in that community, my goal was always to take that 50-page memo, and by the end of the process, we got that down to a couple of paragraphs. It means we addressed all the issues ultimately. We worked everything out, and all that happened on the side. Sometimes most of the time without my input. It was all technical stuff. And that's why I'm kind of used to that peer reviewed that data.
Yeah.
And it's that data that drives, and it makes projects better, quite frankly. It does. These conversations make projects better, but I need data. I can't go back to my clients and say, cut 2 floors off because no one likes the density. Right.
Well, you can, you're just not wise to do that.
No, I do it, but
I think you should be telling exactly what he heard. And all the people that works.
But
I think that the data's gonna get us there anyway, so I'm gonna try to be patient, but like I said, some truth to self-evident. When I look at this, it's very clear.
Well, I know you guys do it a certain way, and I appreciate you at least meeting us in the middle and at least seeing what I'm used to. I'm new to Wakefield. And so this is a learning experience for me. I appreciate this hands-on, don't get me wrong. I appreciate, look, the temperature gets lower. We're talking face to face. At the end of the day though, and I don't know what I can do to convince the town and you, where I personally don't look at this as a zero-sum game. I really don't. And I think there's benefit for everybody. And yes, change is difficult, especially where you have a policy at the state level that requires more housing to be built. And we're talking about neighborhood disruption. We're talking about, this is the first time I hear these. I do these across the state. And it's hard. And this MBTA communities bit has turned a lot of communities. You know, and made them a lot more vociferous against, a lot louder against. No, it hasn't, because I used to have these very same communities ask me for projects.
But as it was found, this would have been catastrophic. Character effect. No question. Catastrophic. Yeah, I'm gonna keep pushing.
We're gonna take the message back, obviously, to the project team. I can't make any commitments one way or another.
I'm just, deliver the message.
You know, and
Get it back to you.
if there's a way that we can continue to modulate this design in a way that makes it work. At the end of the day, we need a development that people are going to want to live in. Okay, and taking your cue, if it's ugly, if it doesn't work, if people think they're living in an eyesore, they're not going to live there. And where are we? Where are we? Honestly, from an investment standpoint.
On a good spot. So I think you need to go back to the project.
Yep.
I think, where do we go? We can, you guys can decide whether you continue on the 14th or not, unless you think there's something worthwhile.
I'm not seeing anything.
You can tell us,
If you can convince me otherwise.
you can tell us when you.
When's
have
your next
done some
hearing?
Drawings,
28.
and we can have another working group meeting before the 28th.
Won't be done by noon tomorrow, I'll tell you that right now.
I'm
You'll
sorry,
be
what?
done.
No,
Won't be done.
but we.
No, you won't be.
But in
So-
the meantime, if we don't meet the 14th, I want to, you know.
Know where we're at with DAC, keep working. We can have another. working
Yeah,
meeting.
No,
and
because I want to put pressure on this group.
we're talking about,
Yeah.
we're talking to Chief Anderson. Is that his name? TAC?
Lieutenant Anderson.
Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Tony's the one who has the relationship with him.
That should be his first move tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gonna be my first, I'm gonna email him tonight. I'm gonna email him tonight.
And then you guys can discuss the 14th, you can talk with him, tell us when you're ready for another working group to talk about some of the things we've talked about tonight.
Mhm.
Well, when you think you've got something to show or you want a direction, we can easily, and quite frankly, we don't have to meet in person, we can jump on a Zoom to make it quicker.
Yeah, but it always makes sense.
Oh, I like person. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing is, it seems to me this is the only type of concept. I'm not, take out the building for a moment, this is the only type of concept that's gonna work. And I think Scott indicated exit in and out, hold on, let me see what he said.
I'm sure that would be better from this traffic perspective.
The west driveway, which is west is this side. That's this driveway. The west driveway.
Saying that's entrance only or exit?
I'm
Is that
telling
what
you.
the site is good?
The west driveway should be an
Bye-bye.
exit.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, nice meeting you. The west driveway should be an exit for regular traffic. Because the sight distance there is better than at the east drive. So, and of course, emergency apparatus in and out. And if it's gated, we can talk about that, then obviously emergency apparatus would have a pass key, all of that. But it seems to me this is the only way we're gonna accommodate the fire department.
Probably, but I wanna be the one to tell you that.
Yeah.
That's your site traffic.
And, you know, we haven't really focused heavily on any shadow impacts. But I can only imagine moving the building to the middle of the site would help that. All around and moving it back.
And I wouldn't do any shadow.
You would not?
Not yet.
No, not until we decide,
Right.
we settle on the design.
Not until you decide that
Yeah.
a ranch style building is great.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Well, how about this for the 14th? Because we agree that there's probably, we're not gonna do that traffic presentation. There's
Right.
not a lot to say.
Right.
But what would be helpful then, and you wouldn't even have to show up, is, and I don't need this by Friday, just some memo with some updates on traffic. If you were able to reach Lieutenant Anderson, so we can spend 2 minutes updating the board about that we're gonna continue
The
to be.
project, yeah.
And then here's where they are with traffic, and it's done the way to do THC, you know, and so. What
Yeah.
I would do, and you can go if you want, I would just open the hearing and say, this is, you're gonna get an update from the chair and chair. I'll read your memo.
Okay,
Continue to, that's all right?
That's fine, yeah.
okay, so I'll do
No
a level.
public comment, just gonna give you an
No,
update.
because there's no new information
There's no
tonight.
information, just
Well, I'll tell you what though, just to give it a little teeth, I can submit. If I have my traffic study by Monday or Tuesday, I'll submit it
Okay.
with the letter.
which is fine, we can say,
Right,
you've now received it. We're moving forward, or however you
Yep,
guys decide to say.
and then you'll have it, you'll be able to say, hey, progress.
and I will share that, you weren't able to get on the THC for December, so it wasn't all. I think that was frustrating people. Because they did not come. So having that explanation, I don't know if anything happened, but we put some context.
No,
Well, we usually do that, and we
So
knew we
I-
were gonna hire Scott.
So I-
And Tony basically said, why are we gonna do this? It could be garbage.
Yeah.
TAC might tell us to.
So
Just
given
go-
all of that, I would just go back to your owner and ask about it. Because that, I think, would give
That's
people
common.
some comfort.
Yeah.
That since we have it, once you know what all your pieces on traffic are, it would help me to know that he's at least willing to work with us. Because what's another 30 days or 60 days gonna make in this process?
Because I did, I'm gonna camera that one.
Yeah.
Because I know you heard your explanation how you like to work. And how, you don't wanna have the mass intensity human count discussion until you get the data. So there's a risk in that, given this without the traffic, the worst thing is like you're running the clock out.
Absolutely.
I know, and that you're not willing to, you're not really coming to the table, so.
That would go along, I'll tell you, that will go a long way.
Absolutely, that's why I was like, and it kind of hit me. Why are we having this massing discussion right now?
Well,
We're not ready to,
We
I
had to
know.
do something.
we had to do something, I get it, I get it.
So as long as you're
I
extending.
totally get it, and I was like, wait a minute.
Add those two, that every comment that, right, you don't wanna talk about the other people, other 40B developers have
Yeah,
had that conversation. It's not
Ongoing.
sure, I get it, I got it.
so it's okay, so we.
But just so you know, I'm not crazy,
I know, I read everything, I read the Bible. I had read it once, because when we were doing, Crescent Street.
Yeah.
it's not bad, I mean, it's a good cheat sheet, that's the thing, especially like. The timeline grids and all of that,
Yeah.
you know,
Not bad.
I look at it all the time and. I mean, I must have about 10 copies of these hanging around my office in different files.
All right, it's.
Anyways, yeah.
I move that we close this working group meeting,
Ah.
Mr. Chair.
Now, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we go.
So